gonna ask yourself, why is it 0.5? It's because half our staff is overseas, and the other half of our staff is still here working, visiting dealers, and handling all the different processes with buyer's orders and all the different things we need to do to make sure your cars get built. But wanted to bring you through a little bit what we have done over the last 2 weeks, show you a little more of the Bandit, because we do have a good amount of Bandit customers, and get some video at the end of Max driving the Bandit, which is pretty cool. We actually, for fun, and so you can log a lot of miles, we put it down and lowered it to almost like an autocross or time attack car. So 300 horsepower and ED5 all-wheel drive. It sure makes at the Charlotte facility pretty awesome time for Max as he sits there while his dad's overseas. So as you see here, it's lowered. We even put it on NASCAR tires. I'll let you know how that pans out later. Max says it's got too much grip for the car. I think he likes it a little looser. I think that's his desert background like his dad, but we got some great stuff we'll be able to show you about. One thing I want to bring up, and we've posted it on our social media, is Connor and Mike Rebello. They're in Tucson today, and they make their way through all our Ride Now and Nash dealerships in Phoenix, and then they'll start moving their way north, all the way up through Vegas, the northern Arizona dealerships, and then make their way up the I-15 heading to Utah. I'll be joining them tomorrow. I head out to Phoenix to get to meet some of our dealers and customers, but I'll give you the schedule here. These are the ones we're doing. So they're in right now Tucson today. Then we have 3 Nash Power Sports, 2 more Ride Nows. Then we do all the Go AZs in our remotes in Prescott, Cottonwood, Flag. And we go up and do our 3 dealers in Vegas, 2 Ride Nows, Rancho and Boulder, and then great old friends ATV Cycle Sports will be out there as well. So. And then as our last stop, as we start heading north, we Factory Power Sports. They're in southern Utah. And then we'll reclock this and give you guys a new calendar as we move north. We'll have the whole Salt Lake area, Heber, Utah, and then we'll make our way over to Montana, Idaho, and we'll make our way across the coast to Oregon for Dune Fest. I think it's Dune Fest. We'll be out there first week of August. So hopefully we get to see you guys, showing you the latest product that we had, all with every accessories you could have on it, from sound system to light bars to our new bumper bar that we've been kind of playing with all the mountain systems, and I'll show you that here. But just all the different pieces we put together, and trying to get to the people who haven't had the time to come see the cars they've ordered, to put it in front of them and have our sales team there to answer as many questions as possible. So, so this is the car slammed, obviously not in off-road configuration, but for pavement time, and to really just see how much fun and how many miles Max can do in this thing. When we built the double X's back in the day, I never get watching Max, and I think then he was probably 9. Spent all day, and all we kept doing was swapping tires for him. He'd go through a set of tires every couple hours. So we found some of Robbie's old NASCAR tires, put them on, and the team's been going crazy there, and it's been pretty fun watching him go around. So you get to see more on the Bandit, but turned out pretty amazing as a car. Initially, my thoughts were the wheelbase for the horsepower was probably not enough, and that's why we really like the El Diablo chassis for the 2-seat model. But a lot of the guys on the East that need this shorter wheelbase, the ability to get it in a 72 when it's not in the RG edition, I think it does open up a lot more opportunity for us in the East, in the woods, Upper Peninsula, where trails are narrow. So I think it's turned out to be a pretty amazing opportunity for our company and our customers. So there's Max and I believe Kyle in the car, full production car that we've literally just, I have to look at the odometer after probably this weekend. I'll let you know how many miles they put on that car, running the same, what do you think, 1/8 of a mile track. So as a NASCAR slick, see the Goodyear Eagles are on it. And you know, I think some of this has some of our, people ask, you know, what is with the orange springs, what springs did we use to get it there? As we get closer to finding out what springs we've actually used to slam it to the ground and what we had to do to the shocks to limit travel. If someone actually wanted to go run time attack, we'll get those notes for you. But this is really just for us to entertain ourselves while the engineering team is out over in Asia visiting vendors, and I'll walk you through that as well. But pretty amazing little car. I think we've been playing fully on E85. So that's his max horsepower. It's got as much traction as we'll ever have. So gearbox, front diff, anything's ever going to break, Max will be the guy to find it. And luckily he keeps locking miles and miles. We're not trying to test it to its limits, but in this environment, I don't think you can make anything harder on a car. Talk about E5. I'm getting ahead of my slideshow. I did a couple times through it before I presented it tonight, so I'm a little ahead of the slides. Autocross and time attack. So if you ever, some of our customers have got tours of our facility. About, I think 5 years ago, we made a decision. For Stadium Super Trucks, we were renting the Charlotte Speedway to have customers test. Had to load up, it burned a lot of time. So we expanded our facility in Charlotte to build our own track. We have both a dirt facility and a pavement facility, and this is the Stadium Super Trucks and our pavement test facility that's in Charlotte. Robbie and I have this vision that eventually we have these series or these opportunities that progress drivers and athletes. We're very fortunate to put Sheldon Creed through Stadium Super Trucks, and Al Sheldon's in the NASCAR Truck Series. Maddie Brabham, who raced the Carlisle truck for me the last 3 years, Maddie now has moved from Stadium Super Trucks back to Indy Lights. We believe that as we progress with our cars and the opportunities, be it that we race these in the dirt or we race them in the pavement, that we'll be able to have stepping stones for all ages to be able to progress from hopping off a two-wheel vehicle into a four-wheel vehicle and progressing their ways all the way up to what we're racing in the desert or at the tracks. So I think what you'll see from us eventually is these great tours where we're doing the Grand Canyon, or we're doing Zion National Park, or we're down in Baja on pre-runs, that we have this ongoing opportunity to engage with our customers. But at the same time, we'll be putting together safety schools, performance schools, and so forth, so you can really get to learn your car. Those will come after vehicles start shipping, but something that will be a really fun part for everyone to participate in the months to come. There's a lot that goes into the Bandit, but what was really neat, and I'll walk you through this, is the only difference between the Bandit and the four-seater primarily is this tube in the center of the car. The four-seater has the exact same back, same plastic, same beds. All we do is move the car back and we add the front seats to the car. Our back wall where our fuel cell is the same on every single car, and then we just move it forward if it's going to be an El Diablo or a four-seater, and we change this piece. On the El Diablo, we have a much bigger bed, so we have a different bed, different fenders. But actually, interesting enough, the Bandit is incredibly easy for us to go from four-seater to two-seater, especially on the assembly line. Rob and I and the team worked on this for a while. Everyone's asked us how we're mounting the bumper light, and we tried everything. We had the billet clamps, you name it. We mounted from the side, we mounted from above, and one thing that we've been very conscious of is aesthetics. We've done a lot to build this brand, and our opinion, which is sometimes the only one that matters as people have looked at us, but truly, if we're going to build our brand, we have our own opinion of what looks great, and others people can challenge that and have their own opinion of what looks great, and that's why there's other opportunities out there. But this was a really neat design. We eventually made a different end cap, and we through bolted straight in. So we use a very similar to like an Adele clamp that actually has a rubber piece for stiction, and it bolts in, so it's not a ton of material on the front of your bumper. We made a special cap that allows the cable still to come up, but allows it to bolt straight to our factory 20-inch light bar or 22-inch light bar. So for the guys that do a lot of night riding, we really found a way, as you can see here, between upper light bar, which I believe is 50-inch and 20-inch on it. The lights are LED from the factory. It's probably one of the brightest setups you could ever have in a UTV, if not some of the cars that are out there racing the Baja 500 this weekend. Another angle from it. So this is actually one of the cars. That's why we had all the accessories on. This is one of the cars that is going around. This is what's in Connor and Mike Rabella's trailer right now. And it has everything mounted from rock lights to the jack mounts on the arms, so we can pick up the arms, show you how the jack works. It has the windshield, it has the roof, the different whips in the back. Every single accessory I think we could put on this car is on this car. So for some of you who have closed out your cars and are really interested in seeing what that finished product outside of the wrap would look like. This is a really famous style that we've kind of taken a liking to. This is an old IndyCar wrap that we've transitioned to some of our cars, but I think you'll be excited to see this car out and about. Some of the things we've done as we show you some of the products that are coming down the factory assembly line, to have your misalignments and your rod ends booted for wear. When we go racing, we don't have that because we're using rod ends that get replaced every so many miles. But when you have a customer car that's going to go spend thousands of miles in it, to keep it dirt and mud, that's what wears out a rod end, in addition to articulation and leverage. But to keep all the dirt and grime out of it, we were able to boot all our rod ends to help you with that. Just showing you some of the inventory that's coming for assembly, because everyone asks when is this being built. What we did as we kicked off production 3 weeks ago, we were able to test the assembly line, understand what our cars were going to do, what our quality controls were in place, and then we were able to sit there and go, okay, here's things we need to do to change so we can build cars faster. Here's what we noticed from the printed diagram, the sample part and the finished part that is similar or different to the positive or the negative. One of the things that's really interesting, I'll share you some of the manufacturing things that we're working on, but let's just say we're working, just for easy math, 500 suppliers. Of those suppliers, everybody has a different minimum order quantity and a different lead time. Just our ratchet straps that you're going to tie your car down with, it's a 4-month lead time to get ratchet straps. Somebody else, like our dash supplier, has a 3-month lead time. But so trying to make sure all of our product arrives at the same time, so we don't have cars like you see right now with some of the crises in the automotive and power sports industry where cars aren't shipping because they're missing something. I had a friend take delivery of a Cadillac with no backup camera, no double dim, and later it gets installed. That's just some of the challenges. So one of the things, since we get to be in front of that, where we get to learn all of the new lead times from suppliers, and those lead times are allowing us to bring product in, make sure it lines up with the assembly line, make sure it lines up with the sub-assemblies, and it allows us to not be waiting on inventory to build our cars. So I'll show you a little bit more of what we have. The engine, so let's take an engine. I think an engine, if we were to pull every part out of it, let's just say it has 800 parts, and that's everywhere from a gasket to a nut and bolt to a circlip to a piston to piston rings to your camshafts, idler pulleys, you name it. All the different parts that go in a motor, all those come from, not all, but come from a lot of different vendors. You have a casting team that casts the case halves, they cast the cylinder heads, you have a Nickel cylinder, you have forged rods, forged pistons, all these different, comes from different suppliers. But it's neat to be able to see, you can see all our engines going down the assembly line. So we waited for all those parts to come in. We first tested them when we built the sample car, the first run of production cars. And now you're getting to see us continually build motors and powertrain. So I think there's a slide in here as well with a gearbox connected. All the CNCs, all the porting that gets done, the finished porting that happens, all the gearboxes that get done, all the little things that we do to finish a motor. It's not as easy as buying it from somebody. When we first started this program, we looked at acquiring engines. That's easy, it's a PO, you buy something and it arrives. But facilitating all this, making sure all the specs come in place, make sure that when you do have a failure, you can identify whose component was the failure. So a lot of the ISO and QMS 9000, some of the Six Sigma stuff we're putting in place that allows us to track failure, track vendor, batches, all different things. That's one of the reasons we're all visiting as many manufacturers as we can right now. So there you can see gearbox, turbo, motor, all assembled. These are final packages that go into chassis. So as people sit there going, how much further out are we at? I think Robbie, his 100th episode is going to be pretty exciting because he'll be able to show you more. I think we're going to try to do as many walkarounds at some of our different factories. We're in Asia, all the Asia Pacific. So we have China, Taiwan, Vietnam have some of our suppliers there, Australia, obviously the US. So there's all these different places that we are visiting. But it's Robbie and the team, and what a sacrifice that these guys have made. And I think it's in here later as a slide. But there they are. We said Tony's helped us with our motors. So if there's a casting flaw, we actually had that happen. It was interesting. We had the first set of motors that got built. there was a lot of finger pointing. Why is this engine leaking water? Why is it a water pump, not a gas pump? Why is it not making horsepower? It's leaking water. And so everyone looks at each other, and everyone wants to find out who's at fault. Not a finger pointing game, but at the end of the day, you have to identify what was the issue. And luckily for us, it didn't slow us down. We found out with sand casting, there's a humidity spec that has to be hit, especially for high pressure casting. So one of the reasons we have Tony over there is a lot of sand casting comes from suppliers in Asia, and to make sure that we have the right porosity on any of our casting. So we brought Tony there. We brought Ken from Push. A lot of the pieces in our turbos, you have impellers, you have the castings as well. A lot of the waste valves, anything that's on that turbo. At the end of the day, we want to make sure every component meets its spec. You know, our turbo has a reverse flow to it. It's very different than what's out there. So to make sure those propeller blades, the exhaust fans can handle the exhaust temps are so high that we got to make sure we have the proper ability to scavenge exhaust out of the motor. All those things are critical. So as we look at every component, doesn't matter where it came from, we brought anybody that's worked with us. Alan on clutches, you know, one of the biggest challenges with clutches is clutch springs. You know, same with shocks, if our shock springs aren't right, if our cam arms are not weighted properly. So if we are inspecting a helix that's supposed to have a 45 degree, if that's the number, and we're looking at it, it's a ramped at 44.5. It changes the performance of the car, changes the clutching. All those pieces play a role. Also, the casting on our clutch, the clutch cover has a tie bar. So we have to make sure the bearing clearance that goes into the tie bar is proper. So all those little pieces that add up to making sure the componentry that ends up on the car, that each supplier hits a certain mark. But these guys, unfortunately, first stop they landed in Hong Kong. They quarantined for 7 days in a hotel. I don't think anybody would ever want this on themselves. So these guys all had to be in separate rooms. Food was dropped at the door, and they were never allowed to leave. 7 days later, they had a day off where they were able to book a flight to their first manufacturer. And that city where they flew to required 2 weeks quarantine. So they've been sitting again they've been, I think, another 7 or 8 days right now, sitting in hotel rooms again. The good news is that any open items, any accounting, any little things, I mean, Robbie said the only thing he's got left to do is taxes these days. It's crazy. As much as it's been a miserable experience, I think it's allowed us to catch up on a lot of the little things that were pushed aside to make sure this car could come to market. So maybe there's some value in our staff sitting in hotel rooms. They would disagree, but it's something that we had to do. And in about a week, these guys will be on the road. So a little bit of their entertainment as they sat there. This is the one day they got out, traveling to the airport. As you can see, the hazmat team escorting us from airport to hotel. I mean, it's all government regulated as you get off the plane. There's no, I'm taking a cab or renting a car, instant into government regulated housing. So that after they get, this is pictures of them traveling after Hong Kong. They travel. This is the only travel day they had out of quarantine before going to their next factory. And I think this is what they've been living on. I asked Robbie today because he doesn't have any Speed Energy down there, and I said, "How's he doing?" He said he's craving an orange Speed, and sitting in a hotel room living off Baja jerky. He's got to be. I can't imagine. They'd probably bring up McDonald's or some form of food that I don't think I'd be too confident in eating. But the sacrifices our team is making allows us to deliver a product that I hope is second to none. There you go. I appreciate your time. Some of our travels. We've all been living on planes, trains, and automobiles. I look forward to you guys seeing some of the footage here in a second. But thank you for your time, and hopefully I see you on the road. And have a great summer.
Durability testing on the car. Max has been ripping it pretty good. We were trying with some big wide slicks to see how the drivetrain did under some extreme loading. You can take a look over here. There's some big NASCAR tires.